There are 5 types of homes I would never buy in Britain. And I'm not saying this as a general opinion, I'm saying this after years of watching buyers walk into situations they never saw coming until it was too late. Some of these are obvious once you know what to look for. Some of them you would never catch without knowing exactly where to look. Let me walk you through the 5 types of British properties I would personally never buy and why. Number 1. Leasehold property with a short lease remaining. Here's what most people don't understand about leasehold in Britain. When you buy a leasehold flat or house, you are not buying the property outright. You are buying the right to live there for a fixed number of years, the lease term, while somebody else, the freeholder, actually owns the land underneath and the building itself. Now, here's where it gets dangerous. As the lease gets shorter, the property becomes harder to sell and harder to mortgage. Once a lease drops below 80 years remaining, most mortgage lenders start getting nervous. Below 70 years, many lenders will refuse to lend on it at all, and the cost of extending a short lease does not go down as the lease gets shorter. It goes up, sometimes dramatically, because of something called marriage value, a legal mechanism that lets the freeholder charge more the closer the lease gets to running out. I have seen buyers purchase a leasehold flat with 65 years remaining, thinking they would extend it later, only to discover the extension would cost them £30,000 or £40,000, money they did not budget for, and in some cases could not afford. When the lease runs out completely, ownership of the property reverts to the freeholder, not partially, completely. Before you ever make an offer on a leasehold property, check exactly how many years remain on the lease. If it's under 90 years, get a proper valuation for what a lease extension would cost and factor that into your offer. If the numbers don't work, walk away. Number 2. A house with an unregistered or uncertain right-of-way. This one comes up more than people expect, especially with rural and semi-rural properties. If the only way to reach a house is across land that belongs to someone else, that access needs to be a properly registered legal right-of-way, recorded on the title at the land registry. Here's what actually happens when it isn't. A seller tells you, "Oh, we've always just driven across that field. Nobody's ever minded." That arrangement might have worked for the current owner because of a personal understanding with a neighbor, built up over years or even generations. But personal understandings do not transfer to new owners. The moment the property changes hands, that informal goodwill can disappear, and you can find yourself with a house you legally cannot reach without a neighbor's permission. I have seen buyers complete on a property only to discover months later that the track leading to their home was never a registered right-of-way, and the neighbor who owned the land it crossed was perfectly entitled to block it. Getting that resolved afterward means solicitors, land tribunals, and sometimes years of dispute. Before you buy any property that relies on access across someone else's land, insist on seeing the registered right-of-way on the title plan. If your solicitor cannot find it recorded, do not assume it will be fine. Get it resolved before you exchange contracts, not after. Number 3. A home built on or near a former mine working without a coal authority search. Britain has an enormous amount of former industrial land, and in large parts of the country, Wales, the northeast, the Midlands, parts of Scotland, that means old coal workings running beneath towns and villages that look completely ordinary from the surface. Here's why this matters. Old mine workings can cause subsidence years or even decades after mining stopped. Tunnels collapse, the ground settles unevenly, and if your property sits above or near a former working and nobody checked, you can end up with cracked walls, sinking foundations, and a repair bill that insurance may or may not cover, depending on exactly when the damage occurred and whether it was disclosed at the time of sale. A proper coal mining search, or the equivalent search for other historic mining in areas with tin, lead, or other extraction, will tell you whether the property sits in an area of mining risk, whether there have been any historic claims for subsidence damage nearby, and whether any planned or ongoing coal authority remediation work affects the land. Skipping this search to save a small fee is one of the most common regrets I hear about from buyers in former coalfield areas. Before you buy any property in a historic mining area, make sure a full coal authority or mining search has been carried out and read the results properly. Don't just take your solicitor's word that it came back clear, ask to see the actual report. Number 4, a property with an unresolved Japanese knotweed problem. I know this sounds like a strange thing to warn people about, but Japanese knotweed has genuinely derailed more British property sales in the last 15 years than almost anything else on this list. And most buyers still don't take it seriously enough. Japanese knotweed is an invasive plant that can grow through concrete, damage foundations, block drains, and spread into neighboring gardens. which means it can create legal liability towards your neighbors, as well as physical damage to your own property. Once it's established, it is extremely difficult and expensive to remove properly, often requiring years of professional treatment or expensive excavation. Mortgage lenders take this seriously. Many lenders will refuse to lend or will require a professional management plan with an insurance-backed guarantee before they'll approve a mortgage on a property with any knotweed present within a certain distance of the building. I have seen buyers lose their mortgage offer at the last minute because knotweed was spotted during a survey that the seller had not disclosed. Before you buy any property, especially one with an overgrown garden or that has been empty for a while, look carefully for knotweed yourself and insist your surveyor checks specifically for it. If it's present, get a proper treatment plan and guarantee in place and factor the cost into your negotiations before you exchange. Number 5. A flat in a building with dangerous cladding and no remediation plan. Since the Grenfell Tower fire, this has become one of the single biggest risks in the British property market, particularly for flats in taller buildings built or clad in the last 30 years. Here's what happens in practice. A building is found to have unsafe cladding. Until that cladding is removed and replaced, the building may require a waking watch, paid fire wardens patrolling around the clock, the cost of which gets passed to leaseholders through the service charge. Insurance premiums on affected buildings have in some cases increased by 10 times their previous cost. And critically, many mortgage lenders will refuse to lend on a flat in an affected building until an external wall system form, known as an EWS1 form, confirms the building is safe. I have seen owners trapped in flats they cannot sell, cannot remortgage, and cannot afford to keep paying the service charges on because the building's cladding issue was still unresolved years after it was first identified. Government schemes have helped in many cases, but the process has been slow and not every building qualifies. Before you buy any flat in a purpose-built block, especially anything over 11 meters in height, ask specifically whether the building has ever required an EWS1 assessment, what the result was, and whether any remediation work is planned, underway, or already completed. If the seller or the agent cannot answer this clearly, treat it as a serious warning sign. Let's bring this together. 5 types of British homes I would never buy without serious caution. A leasehold property with a short lease remaining, a house that depends on an unregistered right-of-way across someone else's land, a property sitting on former mine workings without a proper search, a home with an unresolved Japanese knotweed problem, and a flat in a building with unresolved cladding issues. The thing all 5 of these have in common is this: the problem exists before you ever walk through the door. And it does not disappear just because you've bought the house. Knowing exactly what to check before you make an offer is the only thing that protects you. Tell us in the comments if you've ever run into one of these issues yourself. We read every one.